Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters, and how are you doing out there? It's summer. We made it to the summer, and I hope that you are out enjoying yourself now that lockdowns seem to be easing a bit. A lot of states are open and completely open, and it's going back to normal, which I know we're all pretty damn excited about. I know I am. And it's sunny, it's warm here in Portland. There's a little bit of a breeze, and there's these little cotton things that are floating around the atmosphere. So as I'm recording this, I'm battling a little bit of allergies. So if I sound a little different, I can hear it in my voice right now. Or if I sneeze during the podcast, this is why. So as I had mentioned and as I had promised that I'm going to be doing a series on relationships, because I feel as we are moving out of this time of isolation and for a lot of us, I know me personally, we've gone through this alone. I've gone through it alone. I'm longing for partnerships. Many of us are longing to have somebody to share our joys with, our struggles, our pain, have somebody to, put our head on their shoulder and to support us, especially after we've gone through this whole thing alone, or we're coming out of something. So ground zero, what is that when it comes to having a fulfilling relationship? Ground zero is starting with a breakup, whether it's a fresh breakup or it's a breakup from a long time ago. This is where we begin to cultivate a space of learning, a place of growth to elevate us to go into our next relationship, which will eventually come if we're open to it, if that's what we want. But how do we do it from a healthy place? And that's not running out and getting into your next relationship. The old adage, how to get over someone is to get under someone. I don't agree with that analogy. While it might be fun, it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the process you have to allow yourself to go through because, anywhere that you go, there you are. So you don't want to bring the parts of you that didn't work out in this relationship or attracted the wrong thing into your life, into your next relationship. Because until you go through the fire and you look at the wounds or you look at the ways that you showed up or betrayed yourself within the relationship, you will bring the exact same thing into your next one. And you'll just be dating the same person, just in a different body. So who wants that, right? We all want and long for that all-encompassing love, like somebody that we can turn to in times of trouble, that, we're going to stick together through thick and thin, someone that you can feel safe with and that you can trust to be the most authentic version of yourself. And with all your wounds or your ugly skeletons, that they're going to still love you through it all. To have that kind of relationship, we really need to become the best versions of ourselves. So that is why a breakup can be a breakthrough. Instead of being the victim, which we all feel like in the very beginning, because it's always their fault, until we really examine how we showed up in the relationship, because there takes two to tango. And we really have to take an honest look at that in order to heal and in order to move on. Romantic relationships. They are our greatest teachers because they bring out intense emotions that often override logic or explanation. It's just a je ne sais quoi sometimes, and there's no reasonable explanation why we connected with this person. So there's often tied with deep-seated feelings about our own worthiness when they're suddenly gone. And it stems from childhood or our parental or peer relationships and more. When a relationship ends, even on relatively good terms, there is still an emotionally reckoning to take place. Oh my gosh. The end of something we may have hoped for to be continuous, or we saw a future with them, or we had plans, it's not there anymore. So literally it is a void, and that's a tough blow for anyone's ego. And when a breakup is sudden or you're blindsided, that is even worse because you didn't see that coming. But you know what? When we really look closely at that, there were warning flags along the way that we weren't looking at and we were not paying attention to. We either are so wrapped up in the story of how we want it to be and it doesn't like play part in our fantasy, or we are just too afraid to talk to our partner because there's the fear that they're going to leave you if you bring up some valid concerns, or you're just too afraid to talk about it, or you're just ignoring them. So red flags are very, very important. It's another segment that I'm going to address in one of the other episodes when we get more into the dating and the warning signs that go along with it. So it's so important for us to listen to our body's wisdom because they're there for a reason. We're getting warned. And it's so important to listen and pay attention and take action when you start seeing those things waving around. And soon enough, if they wave around long enough, they're going to just hit you right on the head. And that is always, always a painful event. Because what it comes down to is, how did I not listen to myself? How did I betray myself in this relationship? And if we learn to, look at those red flags and really go back and assess the situation, we will not repeat the same thing. We'll see it in ourselves before we even go down that road. And the breakup. So self-care after a breakup is crucial. It is so, so, so important to take time out and really reflect on it and to honor the relationship that it was and the person that you were with, or if it was, not the most functional relationship, like how you have to heal from those wounds, the emotional, physical wounds from it. And it's important not to suppress or hold back emotions, especially immediately after a breakup. You need to cry. You need to let it out because those thoughts are obsessive, like literally going to analyze every little thing in the relationship. And like, how could I show it up to? What if I had done this? Or what if I didn't do that? What if I said this? And how could I have done that? And then everything becomes about how can I get this person back? Like, how can he reject me? I'm such an awesome girl. How did he not see that in me? Well, maybe if I'm this better person, I can get it back. You start looking at the relationship with rose-colored glasses and all those things that led to the breakup in the first place. You're like thinking, oh, well, that's not so bad. And you feel desperate to fill that void. And you want to fill it back with the partner, with the person that just left you because you're just devastated and you still have such strong attachment to this person that you thought, you were going to love forever. Most of the time, you think you're going to be with this person forever. So it's so important to let the emotion go out, to let yourself cry, to yell, to scream it out, to punch your pillow, whatever you need to do to let those emotions get out. Because if you don't release the emotions, they get stuck in your body and they become like dis-ease later on. You can make yourself, sick, or you can have, physical problems because your emotions are stuck in your body. Or somewhere down the road, just some unexpected event, totally unrelated, is going to bring it out. And it's usually really messy when it comes to that. So really take the time to allow yourself to feel the loss, mourn it, let it go, mourn it, let it go, talk it out with people that aren't enabling you, that can listen, that can hold the space for you, and that will talk to you honestly, because the last thing you need is somebody that is not in a higher place and is just telling you to run out and get laid. That's not going to help you. I mean, it'll feel good, but it's not going to help you down the road. So you want somebody that can support you in your growth. You also might decide that professional help from therapists may be more appropriate or useful and may provide a more neutral and long-lasting perspective. They can also pull out deeper patterns of behavior or thinking that a broken relationship may be something that's a repeated behavior so that future relationships are healthier and happier. So they can help you sort it out. I mean, I did all of it. I spent time. I saw there was a pattern. I didn't want to repeat it because the last breakup was so painful. I didn't want that to happen again. So I spent a lot of time reading. I wrote a lot of self-help books. I devoured things. I spent a month alone reflecting, emoting, doing all that stuff. I mean, I drank it all up. And I did see a therapist and I was able to talk it out. And at that time, man, I thought, I'll be in the next relationship in 4 years. But here I am 7 years later and I'm still learning things. So, and again, relationships, like there's always something to learn. I mean, I was just walking today, listening to a podcast and I had some come to aha Jesus moments. Because there's always something to learn and there's always a time where you might be able to hear things depending on where you are at in that moment in your life. So say a couple years ago, it might not have rung a bell, but they always say that the teacher comes along when the student is ready. So I guess I was ready. So I plan to implement those things that I learned today in my life going forward. So some of the things that you can do to help get those emotions out is listen to sad music. Don't avoid it. Listen to sad music. Do the old blubbery crying. I mean, Lord, if anyone saw me driving down Venice Boulevard during my last break, I'm laughing just because I can reflect and look back. This is where you're going to be if you have gone through a breakup and thought you could never live again without this person. I laugh at it now because I see myself back in those days and it was so painful, and now I've gotten through it and I can really look back at it and I'm cracking up at myself because it was a very painful process. But back to Venice Boulevard. So I'd be driving back from one of my workouts or whatever it might be. I was doing ClassPass at the time, so I was running a Pilates, yoga. I was doing boot camp. I was doing circuit training, circuit works all over Venice Beach and Santa Monica and Marina del Rey. And if anyone turned and looked at me in the car, because what happened is I might be in a Pilates class and I'm doing great, I'm feeling fine. All of a sudden, an emotion would just come up and I'd feel like I needed to cry. So I allowed myself to that. So if anyone looked at me at the stoplight at Ocean and Venice Boulevard, my face is distorted. I've got that ugly cry going on and I'm listening to I'm Getting a Little Bit Stronger. I think that was one of my songs by Sarah Evans. And she talks about how suddenly there's a day where she hears the song on the radio where it makes her think about him. And then finally it doesn't make her cry anymore. And that's what happened is I used to bawl my eyes out and then soon I would listen to it. I'd hear it. And maybe instead of crying the whole song, I'd cry for part of it or half of it. And then it came to where I'd feel the emotion come up and it was gone. It was gone. And that's a really, really good moment in time because you're getting a little bit stronger. And literally the old adage about time heals all pain, it really does. It really does help, but you've got to work through it. And another thing is, like I said, I've read books, you read a lot of books about it and, hearing that other people have gone through the same thing. I listen to podcasts as well. I used to listen to videos. I was meditating, inspirational things like Abraham Hicks. And it was a website, it was called Baggage Reclaim, and it helped me a lot to see a lot of women that have gone through similar situations and that I wasn't alone. So it's so important not to feel like you're alone. And, it's called a breakup because it's broken. That's some other reading that you can listen to. And I'll put some reading materials in my show notes, some of the things that helped me through the breakup that I would recommend anyone to read to really help you work through it. So, you need to sleep. You need to take care of your body. As tempting as it is to throw your regular cycle out the window, which you will for a while, there's a time that you got to shake yourself off and start working through these feelings and get your life back together. It's crucial to stick to something that makes you happy, like exercising. I used to exercise a lot, and walking on the beach, and I'd walk around the marina, and just getting out into nature was something that was really healing for myself. And it may be hard to do at first, but trying at least to get through the motions will speed the healing process. Another thing is you definitely need to treat yourself right. You need to have your self-care rituals. You might think some things are unnecessary splurges, but like taking yourself out on a staycation, or getting those massages, or having a spa day, or going out wine tasting, little trips for yourself is something that can help you heal. So little splurges might be necessary. And I know sometimes there's retail therapy. I did some of that as well. It felt so good to shop, whether it's going to Ross or buying on Amazon or buying that new dress or splurging. So splurging a little can really help you. Another thing is, meeting new people. So I don't know about rebounding, because how good is it to get into another relationship if you're not ready? I was speaking to someone recently. She's devastated over a breakup. She got blindsided. And then 3 days later, she was on a date. I'm like, why in the world are you out on a date when you're still not over your ex-boyfriend? And it's so fresh, because look at it this way. What if you were, meeting somebody and you were really hopeful for this date, and you're spending time, you get yourself done up, you drive yourself to that date, you're sitting down looking pretty, and you're interested in this person, and they're still hung up on their ex, and they're not telling you, and they're there, and they're not available to you. So that's essentially what you're doing. Like, you got to put yourself in their shoes. You're not available to be there for somebody else. So just take your time. You can meet new people, make new friends, but I would hold off on dating for a little bit. I think it's really important to do that until you're really, really ready to be there and available for somebody else, because you want them to do the same for you. Another crucial step is to accept that it's over, because many of us have these fantasies that they're going to come back, and that they're not really gone, and that they're going to miss us, and it's going to be all hunky-dory once again. I mean, I've been in that position, and we've all been there as well, where we go back and forth. And it just doesn't work unless we both done the healing, taken the time out to heal, and we come together from a different place where we're really ready to work through the relationship. But most of us, it's like high school. It's over. Once you graduate, it's over. You've learned your lessons, and it's time to move on. Even though it may not have worked out the way you wanted, accepting the relationship was limited and is over is very, very important. So even if it takes a long time, and you're taking 2 steps forward and you're taking 2 steps back, be gentle with yourself during the process. And, when you catch yourself in the fantasies of getting back together, or envisioning, that delicious scene in which he comes crawling back to you, just smile. Smile at yourself and turn those visions off. Accept this chapter of your life has closed, and tell yourself you'll be better off by moving on, because you will be. And another thing to do right away, straight away, is to get them off all your social media. You do not need to go on Facebook or Instagram or any of those social media channels and see what they're doing and get obsessive about it, because it's just not healthy. Like, the last thing you want to see is them out with someone else, or wonder what they're doing. It's just going to hurt more. So block them. You don't want to have them access to seeing what you're doing and what they're doing. And there's these times where you might see your ex looking at your stories, and it like, why are they watching my stories? Oh, they might still like me, or like, oh, they're not, it's just bullshit. It's just a bunch of bullshit. So you don't want them on text message, email, nothing. Unfollow them from your social media accounts. And, if you're tempted to go back on and look, you need to block them. And because the wound is so fresh, and every time you see them, it's just going to rip it open and it fester and let it all bleed out. So just stop. stop it. So trust me, the most rational thing you could do after a breakup is to do this. And remember, there's no way you are moving on if you have his photos on your phone. So take them off your phone. So separation and distance is super, super important. So now what? You've distanced yourself from him. You've taken him off your social. You've cried it out. You've vented. You've raged. So what's the next step? You need to stop talking about him, because that'll be like every waking thought is going to be about your ex in the very beginning. Like oh my God, every freaking thought, every day for months, I thought about this person. And in the beginning, you'll probably need to get everything off your chest by talking about the breakup with friends and relatives. And that is healthy. So get it all out, get it gone. It could, because as I mentioned earlier, bottling up emotions is not good or conducive for moving on and is unhealthy. So your emotions are real and valid. So a lot of us deny, I should be over this by now, or I'm sorry that I'm feeling this way. I shouldn't talk about it, but it's there. It's there for a reason, and you need to work through it. So don't invalidate it. Find a trusted friend that you can talk it through, and don't talk it through with a friend who's friends with your ex. Again, separation. Once you let it all out, try to stop talking about him. If you don't, your friends might start avoiding your company. Or if you're going back and forth, if you're on the on and off again relationship, your friends are going to love you through it, but they're going to start distancing from you because it's like a worn out record, and nothing that they tell you or try to support you on you're listening to. So talk about something else, or better yet, let your friends talk instead. They might not say so, but they'll welcome the reprieve. It's easy in the beginning to blame the other person. It's easy to blame them for your misery, and it's really tempting to play the blame game after a breakup, but it won't help you get over him. Whether you blame yourself or him, going over and over hurtful scenarios only keeps you focused on your negative emotions. So you need to close the book on that chapter of your life and focus on figuring out how to move on. Resist the urge to blame yourself, him, or anyone else for what went wrong with the relationship. All you can do is learn from it and move forward. It didn't work out and probably wasn't meant to be. You've got to accept the fact and move on to something better. And then we learn from it and we do differently. So part of learning how to move on after a breakup is learning from your experience. And this includes the breakup itself as well as your entire relationship with him. You have to learn to sit with the pain and reflect. And how did you contribute? How did you not show up for yourself? Ask yourself what words or behaviors you'd want to repeat in the future in your next relationship, and which things you aren't proud of yourself for saying or doing. Learn whatever lessons the relationship presented and focus on a different future, and one of love and positivity and healthy connections to come. Think about what was great about the relationship and what wasn't so great, and what led to the demise of the relationship. You can write it all down, you can journal it, and use these notes to help improve yourself for your overall relationship skills. And you've got to picture yourself over him. Picture yourself completely over your ex, and this might take some time, but keep working at it until the picture of your new life truly comes into focus. So you can do this by visioning. Meditation helps, and create this life that you love and that is beautiful just on its own. Picture yourself feeling fabulous, hanging out, laughing with your friends, and then go out and do it. And one way to speed up the process is to practice being grateful, gratitude for what you have, what you had with this past person, what you have now, and what you're learning from this. Gratitude is so, so important. It can create some amazing, magical things by just having gratitude. This is a great time to focus on yourself. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time to do this before beginning another relationship. do something that's just for you and give yourself some time to connect with your inner self. Spend quality time with your close friends and family members. Take up a hobby, volunteer for something, or take a class. I did so many classes. I got zoomed out after a while because I was always doing something to improve myself. And then it became, how can I help others improve themselves? Because that's what it comes down to. Your greatest pain becomes your biggest lesson. That's how you can help other people overcome their hurts or help them to realize their own higher potential. One of my things that I did is traveling. Traveling is really huge for me, and I've gone all over the world in the last couple years. And except for this year, of course, for obvious reasons, but I can't wait to get out there again. I mean, I've been to Tulum and I did 3 weeks solo in Bali, and I went to Spain a couple times, and went to Sevilla, and went down to southern Spain, and then took a ferry over to Morocco. I was in Tangiers at the first day of Ramadan, man, that was crazy. Went down to the blue city of Chefchaouen, and then I took a camelback ride through the Sahara Desert, and I went to Italy for 3 weeks, and I've been all over the place, and it's really the spice of life for me. So I was so grateful. So that goes back to gratitude to have had those experiences. So get out there, get out and do the things that you love. And when you are ready, if you haven't gone out to a social event since the breakup, now is the time. Now, it doesn't mean you should pick up the first cute guy you spot at the bar, but put yourself out there in the world to socialize and meet new people. But don't go someplace where you're bound to run into him, the ex. Pick someplace new. Avoid. If you haven't flirted for a while, start practicing. Brush up on your flirting skills by practicing on someone new. And take it nice and slow. Take it slow, because you don't want to come across as desperate or needy, because there's an air to that when your heart is broken and you're bleeding from every orifice or you're desperate to have someone to fill the space with somebody else, because, that kind of desperate energy can be sniffed from a mile away. So avoid that. And that can lead to a relationship with someone who wants to control you, or who's looking for someone to whom he can feel superior, aka the narcissistic relationship. So avoid that at all costs. At the end of the day, not every guy is like the one that you just broke up with, and not every relationship would be like that one, especially if you learn how to move on in a healthy way by learning from your mistakes. Your previous relationship broke up for a reason, so open your mind and broaden your horizons and look for a new kind of relationship that will be not only different, but way better than what you had before. Remember, the world is a reflection of you and how you show up for yourself. It will be reflected in the people that you meet, because relationships are really just a mirror for us. And, if we keep attracting the same thing, we really need to look in the mirror at ourselves. Again, the breakups, how we handle it and how we learn from it is how we can create anew. This is the best time, even though it doesn't feel like it, especially in the beginning, to grow into a better version of ourselves and to know what we want going forward. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this helped a little bit. My hope for you is to get through this horrible period with a sense of self. Like, you're going to have so much self-love through this if you really take the time to honor the process. You will get there. Listen, I thought I was going to die. I didn't think I was going to survive my last one. And here I am. I can laugh at some of these things now. And like I said, it's always a learning process. So take your time with it and be gentle with yourself. And I'll be back with the next in the series. And that's preparing for love and empowered dating. And until then, have a really wonderful day. I appreciate you joining so much, more than you'll ever know. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awaken Heart podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, You can reach me at theawakenheartpodcast.com.